The key agreements and expected impacts of COP26 are essentially giving up on 1.5. It explodes the lie that the rich industrialized nations are serious about limiting their emissions such that 1.5 can remain in play. So essentially we're kicking the can down the road again to COP27. So in that respect, the Glasgow Climate Pact is something of a massive failure, even though that massive failure does contain some nuggets of hope with regards to international treaty, the phasing down of coal and some other aspects. But in the round, I think it must be seen ultimately as a betrayal of those nations most vulnerable to climate change. In that respect, there are very big differences between the Global Assembly People's Declaration and the Glasgow Climate Pact, because the Global Assembly takes the notion of climate justice as absolutely central to how we need to progress through what's going to unavoidably be a very challenging period of time. One of the central ironies of climate change, or maybe the central injustice of climate change, is that it's the rich industrialized north that are most responsible for climate change who are experiencing least of the impacts, whereas it's the least developed, those poorer, typically global south nations, who are in some instances literally picking up the bill for the profligate use of fossil fuels in the global developed north. So that's why the issue of loss and damages was such a disappointment from COP26. There needs to be international agreement on how we are going to transfer money in order to pay for some of the destruction, some of the damage, some of the deaths that are arising right now as a consequence of climate change. And these impacts will only increase over the rest of the century. So this is an absolutely crucial issue. In order for us to be able to really effectively respond to climate change, we must break out of the constraints, this straitjacket of what is considered to be politically possible or policy relevant or politically realistic. There is a vast gulf at the moment between what is considered to be plausible, certainly in an international climate policy process, and what is actually demanded. What's demanded is the radical restructuring of many elements of our society. Now, thus far, politicians have said, yes, we agree with you, but we're just not going to get voted in with this kind of radical agenda. So this is where people's assemblies, global assemblies, citizens' assemblies can happen. Because what they can do is they can demonstrate that when you put the question to the people, in the absence of spin, in the absence of denial machine, in the absence of billions of pounds of fossil fuel funded spinning and obfuscation, the people themselves can decide on what are the crucial elements of a just transition. Do that, and I think we may actually be able to solve the climate crisis, and in doing that, make a much better world for everyone.